All right, we're gonna rebuild the brake drums today for the Dana 60. Let's get this backing plate cleaned up. Let's blast this thing into the future of beautiful stopping awesomeness. Heck yeah. Like new. I've got it painted. All the new materials are in here so we can get this thing rebuilt. Got new shoes, all the springs and hardware and stuff. So I'm doing one at a time, and then I've got the other one over there. So this way I can replicate what that one looks like on this one, because it's been a minute since I've worked on this thing and I don't want to forget how it goes. So we'll let this dry, and then we'll get this one assembled, and then go ahead and use this one to base that one off of and do that one. Rebuilding the drums for Alex's Dana 60 for the Power Wagon, and just basically looking at the one I've got on this side and copying it over here on this side. Just take my time, making sure all the backing plates where all the surfaces meet. Put a little bit of axle grease on there, keep things lubricated, and just step by step, getting all the springs transferred over and make it look good. What exactly happens when you step on your parking brake? Well, there's a cable that gets pulled in this direction. On this one, you can see it right there. And what happens is that cable pulls on this arm, and that arm pushes out on your shoes, and you can see them both move outward. And that puts pressure out on the inner side of the drum, and then causes your stopping power. But if you've never done a set of drum brakes before, maybe this will help you put one together. And if you've never done one of these for a Dana, this video could help you too. Painting out in the wind today is not the best, but what are you gonna do? Yeah, thanks, wind. Okay, everything got a little spray. We'll let this cure for a little bit, and then we'll get going on the reassembly. Okay, we'll throw these two here in the hot tank, get these sprayed off and cleaned down. When these come out, you'll see all these little metal shavings gone. So we don't want those to screw up the bearings. Let's give her a twirl. That's how you do it, boys and girls.
Yeah. Survival of the fittest. So there you go.
The fittest and the hottest. Stood no chance.
No. It wasn't much of a fight.
Not today. And by blasting with the torch, you can see Roger cut a nice gap down the middle of it, so then this sleeve crushes in, and it's super easy to just tap her out. You get the ding? That's a win. We also upgraded to polyurethane bushings instead of the old press fit type ones, and you can see that they'll fit nicely. It'll be a lot more of a firm and comfortable ride, and these things will last a little better. Alrighty. Now those should be nice and cleaned out, and it sure looks that way to me. That's what we're talking about right there. No shavings, nothing to gouge or hurt our bearings. Sweet. We'll get these things cooled off, cleaned up, and then we'll go ahead and media blast and then spray some paint. Okay, we blew them off. Now I'll take these, mask off all the areas that are machined. So we'll mask off this front face, and then we can sandblast these and get all this old paint off and make them nice and clean to paint them again. So as I cut this masking tape, I leave a little edge along the edge. So this way when I paint, the paint comes over this side too. Because if you do it flush to there, then the paint could chip along this edge, and it just makes a nice cleaner finish. These off. So I'm talking about, baby. Okay, that is much better. It's taken a while to really blast every last inch of rust off this thing, but that'll get us a really nice, good stick of some paint. I'm happy. Okay, we've got the axle here back from the shop. I probably already said that in the video, but if not, we're gonna unwrap it for the first time and take a look at how all of our gears and everything looks. The carrier and the ring gear and everything's been all cleaned up. All the right preload on the bearings and everything like that's been set. So now this thing is good to hook. So the last thing I'm going to do now is slap the cover on it and then do a little bit more work on getting some rust off of the tubes of this axle, and then we'll get this thing sprayed up with a couple coats of semi-gloss. Just clean this outer shaft of the axle, and then we're going to make sure that we mask this off, because this is going to have the bearings sitting on here and here, inner and outer, and the axle grease actually comes in and out of here and lubricates the bearings, so this needs to be protected from getting paint and overspray. Voila! Tedious and meticulous, but it's the tight spots that count the most. Get it all out of there. Is it perfect? No, but it's got a lot of major rust off of it, and it'll hold paint for probably another 50 years and no one will know. So that's good for me. We'll get this thing sprayed off, wipe it down, and we can start spraying probably tomorrow. And before I go ahead any further, I'm gonna put some RTV, make a gasket for this thing, get that set up. We'll wipe off the surface first with some alcohol type cleaner, make sure there's no oil on here, then we'll get us a nice bead of RTV, get the cover on, and then get it all hand tight, let it set up for an hour, torque it to spec. So then this way, the bolts that are actually gonna be holding this thing on permanently are already set in place, because if you paint these beforehand and then go ahead and do all this stuff, usually once you get a socket on these, you're gonna start chipping the paint on it, and if you're really precise and you want your bolts and everything to look really nicely finished, if this is already on here, torqued and set the way it needs to be, one, the cover's protecting from overspray like it's going to do, and two, now your bolts aren't gonna get all chipped up when they're getting torqued down, so we'll do that. This side should be pretty clean because we sandblasted it, but still we'll give it a little wipe too. Just in case. Okay, we ran our bead around the cover, and then Permatex says you should immediately apply it onto your mating surface and then go ahead and hand tighten, let it sit for an hour, and then we'll torque it down after that. Carefully get this nicely set down. Okay, that looks pretty good. We'll go ahead and get some bolts hand started. And you can already see the initial smush out of some of that RTV. And we're gonna keep a star pattern as we go about this too. Okay, all our bolts are on there, hand tight. You can see there's already a nice little smush of that silicone coming out. We'll let this cure for an hour, and then we'll torque it down to 25 to 30 foot-pounds. I've also put the little breather guy here in the axle too, and we'll just get that tightened down a bit more. Then I'll go through, wipe down the whole axle with some pre-painting prep kind of stuff, and spray away. All right, we've masked off the drums, front, side, and back. We're gonna go ahead and spray a little bit of semi-gloss. Get these things looking good. Heck yeah. Got leaf spring hangers, both drums, and some more of the brackets for the leaf springs and shocks as well. All getting sprayed. This thing's down to 26 foot-pounds. Why? Because that's the number I picked. For an hour. It's tacked up, but it still isn't 100% even dry, so cool. We'll catch you guys in the morning when we get some paint on this thing. Okay, it's the morning. Let's prep this thing down real quick. Go ahead and cut away this excess RTV with the razor blade, and then I'll spray it down, prep it, wipe it down, and get some paint on it.
Audio.
Really?
You know, I put either tones on my video, so yeah.
Heck yeah. Now we'll let this cure a little bit, get another 2 coats on it, and then we'll flip it over and let the other side get some paint. These guys are all nicely painted up as well. Let these cure out here for a little while and then we'll unmask them. These lift blocks for Alex's Power Wagon are gonna get welded together right now, so this way it's a little safer and they can't split apart. And I know some of you are gonna say this isn't safe in the ideal way anyway, but you know what? This is what we're doing. And there we go, just a little extra hold. Get these things locked in for good so they have no way that they can slip apart. Just cleaning off all that burnt kind of smoke and stuff from when you guys saw me and Roger blow out these old bushings on here. They're gonna uncover this because you saw I spent a ridiculous amount of time blasting these and getting them cleaned up. Put them outside and we'll get these sprayed with some black too. Okay, these are prepped down. Let's spray some paint. Sweet. Alrighty, we got the axle pretty much all painted, ready to reassemble. Before we do that, we want to clean up the chassis a little bit before we go ahead and put really nice shiny metal on some old rusty stuff. So we're gonna prep this down really quick. This isn't gonna be a perfect job. We're just gonna buzz it with dual action, hand sand it a little bit, 80 grit, whatever. Get a little black Rust-Oleum on there, just enough to make it look nicer, because ultimately someday we'll really restore this truck, but for right now, it'll still look a lot better than it is. And that's just what we're looking to get some of the old scale and paint off of there, do a little nicer job. And here's a before on the driver's side. And make sure while you're doing this, respirator, eye protection. I know it doesn't look as cool and you fog up, but when you're older and you still breathe good and you're not having any issues, you'll thank yourself. Well, it's a dirty job, but someone's got to do it. It's not perfect by any means, but it looks pretty good as far as all the major rust off of there. So now we'll get some paint sprayed on this thing. Okay, I called in the big guns. Finish the job. Get it, babe. She's getting it. Heck yeah.
Face of concentration. Not at all.
Heck yeah. Looks great, babe.
Thanks.
Again. And as you can see, for about 2 or 3 months, this truck has managed to sit out here in the backyard, floating on my crazy 4x4 jack stand setup. And it's actually even just hanging on the one jack right now because I moved this one out of the way to paint. So the goal now, and that paint does look pretty good from last night too. The goal now is to get the truck down a little bit lower, I'm thinking, get the new axle underneath it, set it up on jack stands, and then kind of lower the truck towards the axle, get the leaf springs hanging on there, then set the blocks up on the axle and kind of make them all go together. Because if I try and put the axle with the leaf springs all together and lift it up to the truck right now, it's going to be super heavy and off balance and really hard to do. So what do you say, Elliot? Let's get it out here. We're also going to do a quick little undercoating spray in these wheel wells. Alex is over here knocking this one out. All right, so we're gonna make this a little bit more of an extensive job because Alex wants to kind of get a little bit more underneath the truck. So she's gearing up for safety because safety second today. Alrighty, the undercoating is finished. Alex did a great job. Looks really good under here. And yeah, not much more to say other than it looks great. Glad we did this while it was up. The axle out. I'll go ahead and hang the leaf spring hangers back in here. So this way the leaf springs are already set in place. So this rear hanger, which kind of props up from the main bracket, it's going to go in this orientation with the curve kind of facing to the forward of the truck. And then I'm going to get these new bushings in here, which we ordered. There's your part number there. And these ones have the right inner and outer diameter to be able to fit through into here and function that way instead of doing the press fit one. I'm going to go ahead and get some grease on these before we finally put them in too, so this way it's not creaking and making a bunch of noise. So these new bushings are a bit thick and sturdy, so I put a little bit of grease on this outside here on the bottom. Same thing in here on leaf springs, just getting these Daystar bushings pushed in, making sure that I lubricate all the whole inside with some grease and have these things set and ready to go onto the truck too. Nice. As I'm pressing in the sleeves that go into the bushing, you can see it's not the full length of the distance that it covers from end to end. So you kind of got to balance it in between the two. And if you just press it on like this, it'll stay flush with one side and then shallow to the other. So I'm doing this. Got a nut that's just slightly smaller than the sleeve. I'm going to squeeze and get that thing recessed down in there like that. And there you go. Get it in here. So as you guys saw, it was really hard for me to get this one shackle in there. So we actually aren't even really able to get the leaf spring into this side or on the upper part of the shackle just because of how thick the outer diameter here of the new bushings are. So we're gonna go take them over to Rogers and trim them down So I'm gonna get a quick measurement inside here to get an inner diameter of this opening, and then we'll kind of just face them real quick and get us a little bit more rooms this way. They fit into it a little better. So it looks like we're about 2.92 inches. Same thing here on the shackle, 2.89, 2.9. So we're gonna go into the, we'll go over to the leaf spring now and then show you what we're doing. You can see here on the leaf spring, when we measure, the caliper is right now set. The caliper is set to where it was outside, and you can see we're all the way faced off here on this right side and left side. That's the difference right there. So we're currently at 3.15 inches outer diameter, and we had to get it down to the 2.90 like you saw before. I'm gonna take a little bit of material off both sides of each of these and then kind of bring it down. So we're over here at the master shop, and we will go ahead and cut down and face off these bushings and get them down to what we want. A little math, and we're gonna have to take out 100 thousandths total, so about 50 thousandths on each side. So we stuck a sleeve through it. In this case, use the socket to hold it in the lathe, and then we'll face off 50 thou. So that's about as much as it took off right there. And we'll just bevel off this edge with the sander, and that's about it. Okay, we've got ourselves a box full of freshly faced off bushings, and we'll get these reinstalled and get those springs on the truck. All right, now that we've got everything faced off, trimmed down, lubed up, you can see that it slides in. Oh yeah. Nice and easy. We didn't have to fight it like we did on the first time. And that should be the same thing now to fit the leaf spring in between here and here. Beauty. Heck yeah. All right, so it's time to put the leaf spring back in, and it may be hard to see, but you'll notice to my left, this side of the leaf spring is actually a little bit longer. If you kind of look center line from this bolt this way, distance from here to here, for example, there to there, it's a couple inches longer to the rear side. So that's the way we're gonna get this thing set in. Big test. Can we push her up in there? All right. Had to do a little on-site shave of the back side of that far bushing because it was still just a little too tight for the way that the body mount is over there. It kind of curves upward on the inside of it. So anyway, a couple curse words, and here we are. We are in there. Now we'll get the other side going. This one, it's, oh, didn't think about that, did you, Frank? Okay, swinging around. Cool. Pull the camera in and show you guys a little closer what we're doing over here. Oh yeah. Isn't that beautiful? And we'll use a little leverage and pry this guy right into place. Perfect. We'll run our bolt through there, and we'll have one leaf spring on the truck. One more time, I'll emphasize for you guys, as you can see, that bottommost leaf, how this one sticks out about 2 inches beyond the leaf above it. And this one over here is about an inch shy of it. This side of the leaf spring is about 2 inches longer, so you can use that as your visual ID, that this side here with the leaf sticking out beyond it, that's your longer side. So make sure you don't get them flip-flop. Odie, what do you think, dude? You happy with the progress? Okay, thanks, buddy. Almost made a big mistake. Make sure you get the bolt with the threads facing out this way on this upper one, because you won't have enough room behind it to get the spring, and lift it up. And once you lift it up above the chassis here, you can get the bolt in from the back side. Alrighty, leaf springs are in. Just got to tighten up the bolts, but pretty cool.